Welcome everybody. Let me get rid of our banner. What happened there? Whoop, I got the wrong thing. Okay, hold on. There we go. Boom. There's the TestGeek and the Guru. We're here to help you pass your exams. So let us know what exam you are taking, where you're joining us from in the chat. You can chat amongst yourselves. If you have a question, please put a Q, capital Q, and then your question. And also the front of that, put SIE or 7 so that we know what exam it is you're taking. We always like to start with debrief, brief, and debrief. In the Marine Corps, my job was to brief pilots on their way up about the threat they might encounter. And when they come back down, debrief them so that the next person up would have a good idea. And that's kind of what we like to do on the series exams. Make sure that you realize that every draw is different. So what somebody tells you they saw and what you might see. I just had a call today and he said he had 18 questions. He never saw in any test prep vendor. I didn't want to rain on his parade, but I think that's kind of almost impossible. But, be careful. If you talk to him, I felt like saying, gee, don't spread the infection or the negative energy with other people. I also like to tell you during the week what people have asked about in terms of their exam. Again, in terms of brief, like what you should spend time on. I have no idea who this test prep vendor is, but they were asking. You get a little feedback on your mic, Brian. There we go. Anyways, he said that they were asking me to crunch yield and maturity. It makes me think it's got to be past perfect because I don't know who else would do that. You don't even have to do that on the 7 either. So you're not going to have to calculate yield and maturity. On Series 7, this is a debrief from a successful test taker. Again, you should have known this. So on debrief, when people tell us they saw something, I kind of say, well, gee, maybe it's on my end, Brian. Let me check my end. Might be me. Yeah, sorry about that, Brian. It was my nope, okay. Still there.
Let me do something.
Anyways, IDRs, industrial development revenue bonds. He was not clear that it's corporate credit that backs the bonds. The answer is yes. Everybody's content covers that, so I'm not sure why he wasn't prepared for that particular testable idea. Bond anticipation notes are definitely there. Again, everybody covers it. But I think of a bond anticipation note as the muni equivalent of borrowing against receivables to even out their cash flow, and it's a money market security. You typically would get this from your underwriter. So the underwriters for California are JP Morgan and Bank of America. And California might say, hey, you're underwriting $10 billion worth of GOs, but can we have $1 billion cash advance? They say, certainly. Here's a bond anticipation note. And then when JP Morgan and Bank of America sell the bonds, they'll get back their money a little extra. I would also be even worse, Brian. I would also know that TANs, tax anticipation notes, and TRANS, tax revenue anticipation notes, all of those are money market securities, high quality debt maturing in less than a year. I think the UIT is more of a test prep vendor. Is it on the test? Yes, but it's low probability. What I mean by low probability is it seems like it comes up more with people who are studying than it does on the actual exam. But unit investment trusts have a professionally selected fixed portfolio of securities. It typically bonds, doesn't have to be bonds, but it's passively managed, meaning, there's nobody going to buy and sell the bonds. There's no person pulling the weeds, so to speak. And as the bonds pay interest, doesn't have to be bonds, but whatever it is, if it's bond portfolios, they pay interest, gets passed through to the UIT holders as they get called or mature, same deal. 65, 66. The guy said he had a decent draw. It's totally random. No surprise. He said that he got a difficult current ratio question. I've reached out to him. I don't know what that means. I mean, current ratio is current assets minus current liabilities. All I can think is that maybe they hid the accounts from him or something, and he had to go through an account ledger and pick it out. But I've never heard of that. So all those balance sheet equations, I would just be prepared for A, B, C, D, working capital, A, B, current ratio, C, quick ratio, D, debt to total capital. And then depending on what they've asked you would depend on your appropriate response. All right. So we told you the question format already. On the channel, the best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. But we do have paid supplements. So when you're trying to find content on the channel, there's about 200 videos. You go to your series playlist, whether it's SIE or Series 7, and then in that playlist, you find all the videos available to you. The only playlist that has more than one is Series 7. Series 7, there are 6 separate playlists for content. There's an explication, there's practice exams, there's tutoring replays, there's narrative videos. So I'll leave you to find out. I don't put everything on the channel because it would be a mess. So, there would be 300 videos. So I put shorter content on our Series 7. That's our Reddit community. You can find a lot of things in the search bar, other videos, like a guy was asking about a combination. I just put it in the search bar. I will magically appear with a video on combinations, for example. I also put stuff to Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook person, but we have people who are over there, and I also put stuff there for Facebook people. I'm not one of those folks. In terms of paid supplements, the best paid supplement you can have is, I think, a combo if you need a Q Bank from Kaplan, if you don't already have one, and it's Guru 10% discount code at checkout. And then our friend, the TestGeek, who joins us most Tuesdays, if not every Tuesday, he offers our viewers and subscribers 20% off on Brian's content. He also has some free content on YouTube, so you can get a kind of a free look, if you will. He's also been kind enough to let us share his content on the channel in terms of his practice exams. You probably at some point see me explicating one of the Brian's TestGeek practice finals. They're fantastic because they give you good correlation. They have nice correlation with the actual exam. Okay, so let's see. Oh my God, we got all kinds of comments. So let's start at the top. Let me get rid of our there. Hey, hello, welcome. Thanks for participating on Tuesdays. I like it. Seems like we're starting to get our own little crowd, our little community clique. So thanks for joining us. We like our regulars. We'll have to come up with some. I'll do some homework. Maybe I can find out a way to give somebody a badge. Or I don't sell channel memberships, and I don't sell you coffee cups and T-shirts. It doesn't speak to me at all. But maybe I can come up with a way to give our regulars a badge of some kind of recognition. 66 November 18th. Well, you got plenty of time. I always joke the difference in tragedy and comedy is timing. If there was just an Act 6 Scene 1, everybody on that stage would still be alive. I know you're going to do well because I know you've been dedicated, disciplined, and organized in your first 2 study efforts. I can't imagine you're not going to collect your 3rd testing victory on the 66, just knowing the work you put in on your first 2. It's a different, Brian and I were talking just before we went live about slaying your dragons, your SIE dragon, your 7 dragon. And we would just warn you that the 66 is a dragon of a different species. Some people, for whatever reason, kind of struggle sometimes on that, but plenty of time. I'm always glad you have a test date. Please get a test date. If you don't have a test date, it's hard for your brain to draw you to the event if you don't have it. So I was talking to the guy today, and I said, when you testing? He goes, well, I'm going to wait till I get my study effort done. Bad strategy. So I'm getting a little more tough love.
Fear is a great motivator.
Yeah, it is. Fear and greed. I fear and greed, right? You get a bonus if you pass, and you get fired if you don't. Yeah. Hey, Roger, thanks for joining us on LinkedIn. We broadcast to LinkedIn, Facebook, and we also broadcast here on the YouTube channel. So tell your friends if they're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or our YouTube channel, they can join us. Got away from Q, still busting my butt to defeat the 7. I like it. Busting your butt. Savannah, I love it. If I were your accountability partner for real, I kind of think of Brian and I as fake accountability partners. We didn't fire you or, give you bonuses or anything like that. But Savannah, man, if I were somebody working with you and I was your real accountability partner, I would love that test, right? That's the right attitude that you need to have, that this is, again, I was talking to Brian about a testing victory, right? And to get the victory, defeat the 7, get the P, as Brian says, it requires work. There's no magic. 63 from Rhode Island, Roger. All right. Rhode Island, man, the Northeast. Winter's coming, right? Winter's coming. Is that your last leg? That should be your last leg unless you're doing 663, 65. I would imagine, Roger, that means you're kind of done after that one. Hello, Nancy. SIN Tuesday. We've had some great results, Nancy, lately on the SIE. So the SIE testing gods have been very kind to our viewers. So hopefully they'll be kind to you as well. I have a tips, tricks, and memory aids for SIE video that I'm premiering Thursday here on the YouTube channel. You're welcome to join us. I have a very popular lecture for the 7 that is the same basic thing. And people, when they get to their 7, say, Dean, why didn't you have tips, tricks, and memory aids for the SIE? Because I could have used it. So I said, okay, I'll make a tips, tricks, and memory aids for the SIE. The reason I didn't just, tag the 7 video is because it has spreads and straddles and lots of things you won't see on the SIE. But that's available Thursday. Check it out. There we go. You guys, I love our community, so feel free to talk amongst yourself in the chat. And like I say, then if you have a question for Brian and I, just put Q and your series exam, and we're more than happy. Brian's depressed if he doesn't get to go to his old-fashioned whiteboard and do some board work. I mean, a live stream without Brian on the board, is not good.
It's like a day without sunshine.
Vid just reached out to you, Brian, for some tutoring, 66 tutoring.
Okay.
Brian not only is a great deal on his paid supplement, but boy, tutoring is a great value. Or I think are you still at $90 an hour, Brian?
Yeah.
So $90 an hour for the TestGeek himself. So Nancy, everybody's sending you some good energy. Love it. Any disclosure for referral fees? Well, you should always say yes to disclosures. Right? So your default should be sunlight is the best disinfectant. And so anytime you get asked about should something be disclosed, the answer is yes. I would think referral fees would mainly come up for solicitors, which are now called promoters. They haven't changed the exam to reflect that, but that's where I would think that would come up, where I disclose to you that I'm a third-party solicitor for an investment advisory firm. I give you a solicitor brochure. I tell you where there's going to be any additional costs, right? So disclosure. You want to add anything to that, Brian? That's a NASAA.
Probably not tonight.
Okay, cool. Yeah, suitability questions are hard, Roger, because, there's suitability or judgment questions. And when you get to the 50-50, you just got to squeeze the trigger on what you think is best of those. I'm surprised. I'm hearing more of that on the 63, which not used to be the case. So I don't know if that's your vendor that's doing that to you, Kaplan, but the 63 is mainly legal stuff. It's not really investments and suitability. So I'd be surprised, Roger, if on 63 you're struggling because of suitability questions. Ethics is huge, though. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. No prohibited practices like front running. No, you're not supposed to make breakpoint sales. You're not supposed to sell dividends. Very, very testable. If a group of Canadian citizens, I love this, a group of Canadians is vacationing in the States for summer and buy securities from the BD who's located in U.S. and Canada, who has to register? I would like the context of the answer set there, but I think the snowbird exception is not based on a group or individual. I mean, I would think it would be snowbird. If the BD is located in the U.S., there's no doubt they have to register.
That's the key to that question.
Yeah, so I mean, if it says located in the U.S., end of question, the BD needs to be registered in at least one state, the state they have their home office, any state in which they have another office, or a retail client. So remember, BDs are a little different than investment advisors. BDs have one retail client. They need to register in the state, regardless of where they have an office. If they have an office, regardless of their business customers, they need to register. But if they're a BD that has no place of business and doesn't have retail clients, then they don't need to register. So.
Dean, do we typically see the Canadian question on the 66?
I haven't, I think it's more test prep vendor than it is reality. What do you think?
I definitely think it's a 63 question.
Yeah.
Without the BD in the U.S.
Okay.
Is the one I've always, for the last 20 some years.
And that would be and would you agree, Brian, that would be the snowbird exemption? If I'm a BD in Canada with Canadian customers in the US?
Correct. Then they wouldn't have to register. But since they have the office in the US, that makes a whole different story.
Yeah. Hey, Reddit. Yeah, I like Reddit. Some people like Facebook. I like Reddit, Rosario, because you're anonymous. And for example, we have a Reddit for 24, and I can't tell you how often somebody, I don't know if we have a 24s joining us tonight. They're welcome to. We're doing 9s, 10s, 24s as well in our community live stream. But they'll say something that, I'm glad they're anonymous. Let's put it that way. So I think I'm not anonymous on Reddit. I'm Series 7 guru, but I tend to like it a lot better than Facebook in terms of protecting your identity. You don't need to tell us who you are and what your firm is. I mean, you're welcome to share what you like. So I landed on Reddit because somebody put a positive, nice review. I Googled, somebody Googled me, and I guess I came up on Reddit. I go, really? So I went over to Reddit, and sure enough, there I was. Long story short, I got banned from another Reddit, so we set up our own community. That's what we do. Our person from Rhode Island is probably familiar with that history, right? Getting banned from Boston, and we go to Rhode Island and set up our own thing. Eli, welcome back. QCC, you mean OCC? I'm not sure what the QCC is. OCC is the options clearing. Can you just confirm, Eli, what that acronym is? Do you mean OCC? The Options Clearing Corporation, you should definitely know, is the one who publishes the OCC disclosure document. You should definitely know that, assuming we're talking about the OCC. You should definitely know they assign exercise notices randomly. You should definitely know about contrary exercise advice that you send to the OCC, telling them, they usually automatically exercise, but don't. The 9-question bank is done by a friend of mine named Bill James, and he's beefed up, Eli, that 9Q bank in Kaplan. And so, just give us some clarification. Do you know any QCC, Brian?
No, I
don't know. By the way, if Eli, Brian and I don't know what it is, it's not on the test. So, yeah, it's a different ball game for sure. I think I definitely will think you pass the first time. There's nothing to suggest, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Rinse and repeat. So if you're successful on your SIE, rinse and repeat for the 7. Successful on that, rinse and repeat on the 66. Be humble. Don't get, hubris and, because a lot of people miss that 66 because for whatever reason, I don't know why they would think this. They think, I got my 7 and, it's a different, like I say, it's different content. So be careful. But as long as you don't, you take it seriously, just do the same thing again. Now, if you miss one of the SIE or you miss the 7, well, then you can't rinse and repeat. You got to give yourself a strategic pause and say, hey, what made me miss the mark? And then you got to take action. I used to not like this word, but I'm getting more familiar with it and I'm more happy with it. But then you got to do what we call remediation. You got to figure out what you did and that didn't work. And sometimes it can be a real challenge. I have somebody struggling on that. And, I'm very rarely surprised. I haven't even heard, Eli, of a qualified contingent cross. You should definitely know the cross, an agency cross, is where I have a buyer and a seller of the security, and I'm acting in dual agency. So maybe contingent means you can't do it without the permission. I don't know. But what you do need to know about a cross is that when you're acting as a dual agent for both the buyer and the seller, it's a conflict of interest because the buyer wants to pay the least amount possible. The seller wants the highest price possible. And so we're going to have to disclose dual agency. I had somebody who was mistaking it as a principal transaction. It's not. So make sure, Eli, can you see my email behind me? There, just send me the QID and Kaplan. Any of those you want me to, just email me, and I'm more than happy to email you back or set up a Zoom and just chat you through it or tell you what the test is. But on the test, I think it's just dual agency. Wouldn't you think so, Brian?
Yeah. As far as a cross is concerned.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Eli. I'll send Mr. James. The advantage of working with Kaplan is that I am a Kaplan senior instructor emeritus. What I mean by that is I don't really work for Kaplan. I set my schedule and they pay me a daily rate, a nice daily rate. Good for ice cream money, Eli. But as part of that, I do have access to the most senior people at Kaplan, and that includes Bill James. So I'll send him when we're done tonight, send him the thing and say, well, hey, what's the point on a qualified contingent cross? And then if you email me or next Tuesday, I don't know when you're testing, or maybe I'll put it on, I don't know, Eli, are you participating in our Reddit, our Series 24 Reddit for 9s, 10s, and 24s? If you are, I can also post it there, but we can certainly figure that out. But if you tell me you missed your mark on the 9 because of that, I'm going to say, I don't believe that. Retaking 63 this coming Monday. I've been using your videos on YouTube. I also listen to Brian on my way to work. Any recommendations for what you should focus on? What do you think, Brian?
Broker dealers and agents, registration.
Definitional for sure. I think definitional. What's a broker dealer? What's an agent of a broker dealer?
When needs do they have to register? When they don't have to register?
Right. If you have Brian, if you're listening to Brian, I assume, and you have Brian's content, and he's got that great little cheat sheet where you put in the I forget what he's got. He's got like the broker dealer there, the investment advisor, the agent, the investment advisor rep. It's like 5 columns. And what I tell people to do is just put your broker dealer and investment advisor into his, box and just say, okay, that's me. And then just look at, how that relates to you. And I think that's a good way to get yourself oriented on that. So assuming you have, I'm assuming you're listening to Brian's paid content. If so, that means you got his stuff. So if you got his stuff, check out his, what do you call those things? Quick notes or class notes or?
Yeah, either one. Yeah.
Quick
notes, class notes. Yeah.
Woohoo. Oh man, Mavi. Well, the good
Ouch.
news is that misfortune has happened to a lot of folks in our industry who've gone on to great success. So let it not get you due down, even though I hate those scores because it's usually not knowledge deficit. It could be changing answers. It could be whatever it is. Now, Mavi, what you have to do is pass 2 tests. You got to pass the SIE, but the second test now you got to pass is a test of resiliency, how you respond to that. And I got to tell you, I think, I don't know who your firm is. I'm assuming you're not taking your SIE on your own. If you're who cares? It's your own business. But if you're sponsored, most sponsoring broker dealers know that a high 60 is not a lack of work, that it's some other variable. I can't imagine. There's 2 things they want you to pass, but they also are looking how you respond to that gut check, right? So, I like the attitude. You got to just make sure you say, hey, I'm going to get it next time. And then, as we said, remediation, give some thought to what you could have done better, right? So I would suggest, I don't know how fresh the hurt is. I'm hoping, it kind of sounds weird. I'll explain in a minute. I hope the fresh is still fresh. But this happened recently. Here's why. I want you to print the PDF from the FINRA site and go through that content outline and just put a plus or minus next to each of the items. Plus means you felt like you were ready for it. Minus means I could do better, and then that would be maybe a way to jumpstart this next effort. And then I would ease into it by, doing some reading, power back up. Don't just jump right in. Take a little moment or 2 to refresh and reset, and then come up with your new attack plan, whatever that may be. Do you have any advice, Brian, for Mavi?
No, I'd like that. My class notes actually is derived from the NASA content outline. So either one. I like the plus, minus, or 0, meaning you're neutral, you don't know it.
Okay, there you go. Add to 0.
Plus, you're comfortable. Minus, I need some more work. 0, I'm not sure.
Okay, I like it. So Mavi, we our live streams, you're everybody welcome to live stream. Share the live stream. It isn't a commercial for Brian or myself, but that being said, Mavi, his if you can buy Brian's like PDFs for like $40 with the discounts like 36. The all in on the videos, it's like $80. But what Brian, I think, is saying is that if you get his quick notes, he provides that to you. And then I call it explication, where, Brian then comments and has after that, practice questions and things based on that outline. So it's a good value as a paid supplement. Whether you go all in on Brian for the $80, $100, but with the discount 80, or if you just want to get the PDF, maybe I'll talk to Brian off backstage, and maybe we could. Maybe it's a pain in the ass accounting wise, Brian, but maybe we can allow people to upgrade. Like they can start with the 40 if they like it, then get the videos. There's not too much of a.
I often have somebody do that, and it is difficult.
Okay. So just decide you want to spend 36 or 80.
Completely different kind of platforms.
Okay. All right, Derek, congratulations. I love it. Were they impressed that you had your SIE, or do you have your SIE? Did you look for the job first? That's fantastic. So, there's a lot of people are just taking the SIE and then going searching for sponsorship for the 7, and there are opportunities out there. So that is fantastic. So, testing in a week or 2. I hope you've been doing some studying before just now. So I'm hoping you have a week or 2 to conclude your existing study effort. That's what I would hope that means. Ted, next Monday, any thoughts I should spend the last week? I think, got to do practice questions.
Practice finals last week.
Yeah, I think so. So Cameron, what I would be looking for is how many Series 10 practice tests are going to be able to wheel out. We want you to be in that mid 70 range at least. So if you're testing Monday, this is Tuesday. So at least 3 more finals before practice finals, Cameron, before Monday, and then just those scores, and then continue to read and lay base. So, continue to to grind. What I mean by that is whatever you're doing, your activity wise, reading, watching videos, practice questions, and practice tests. Schedule at least three practice tests, but continue to lay your base and keep working. So that would be my advice. Woohoo! I think you're going to like it. Do you know who your instructor is, Vidya? Tell him Dean said hi. It's probably going to be, I would imagine, Jim Nash or Esposito or whoever it is. So, well, make sure you're aggressive. And I joke, right? You've gone long a Series 66 class. You paid the premium. So make sure you exercise and get out of that class, whatever it is you intend to get out of that. So I would give thought to making up a little class to-do list. I always like it when I teach. I'm teaching the 66 next month. I teach a public Kaplan class once a month. And it's the first month I do the SIE. The second month I do the 7. So my 7 is coming up. And then the last month of each quarter, I do 65, 66. Heads up, I might not put myself on the schedule. I'm the one who controls my own Kaplan schedule. So this might be the last hurrah for Dean doing public classes. But I'm sure whoever you have is wonderful. You get a class notebook, and that's worth the price of admission as well. So you made a good choice. Good investment. 66 Friday, where Laura, circle back with your testing victory next Tuesday. We always like talking to victorious test takers. So come back next Tuesday and let us know what happened in terms of your testing victory and pay it forward. We're not allowed to ask you what was question 35, but we can say what were you prepared for or not prepared for, that kind of thing. Whoop. Well, communication and ethical practices. Communication is pretty straightforward, Ann, but ethical practices, make sure you get that down. I would say it's the opposite, actually, and it's not ethical practices. It's recognizing unethical practices, right? So the test is very negative. The test believes in human depravity and original sin. Everybody's trying to lie, cheat, and steal is the kind of the attitude you got to have on the test. Yeah, 65. That's pretty typical. I just talked to a guy today. I wish I could start every 6 person by saying, just get a 7 because you're going to need it eventually. So a lot of people end up, Roger, getting a 6, SIE 6, 63, 65. And about 90% of what you need to do can be done with that. However, then like this guy, he's a 30-year insurance professional. They wheel out some product and now he's got to go take a 7. So if you have a choice, go full registration. You have a choice. Yeah. So hit me up Thursday. By the way, on the chats, you don't have to be when I premiere chats on Thursday when I do premieres. The chat is open for anything you want to talk about. It's while we're watching the premiere. It's not a live stream like this, but there's a chat, and I'm sitting there. It's also my chance to proof the video. I probably should do that before I go live with it, but it gives me an opportunity to watch it to make sure that I didn't say anything stupid, something like that. But you can join us Thursday, 5:30. And the chat is open for any topic from any exam. Testimonials, Brian, you want to speak to
that? The law just changed. That's what
it did. It did. If you go, Laura, if you are a Kaplan student, if you go to the PDF, it'll tell you that it's now permitted. So that's in your, what do we call that front page of assuming you're Kaplan, there's like a addendum, but the addendums are found in a particular section. You can find that. I've also, Laura, posted that on our R Series 6 Reddit. So if you go to the R66 Reddit and put in testimonial, you'll see that I've actually addressed that topic in depth. It probably is one of the longer posts. Probably would have been better to put it as a file or something, but it's there. So it has recently changed, but I would also warn you, Laura, that NASA takes forever to update their exams. They're notoriously lax. I mean, they didn't get to 72 until 2 years after it was 70 and a half. So, yeah, great seeing you too, Eli. We like to have our regulars. Just because you pass, we come into your life. I always say, Eli, for a reason and a season. The reason is to help you pass your exams, and the season is how long that takes. I get people who tell me, they send me emails. I appreciate it. They go, Dean, I'm unsubscribing, or it's been a good, season, but I'm done. I get it, but you don't have to leave. You're welcome to hang out, come back, pay it forward. So You know. Derek, on YouTube, the chat will disappear after this. So the chat is not captured. It's live. Right now, Derek, somebody can see your chat, I believe. So make sure you're aware of that. Now, once this is over, the chat is done. It's the only thing that remains is the live stream. Yeah, Eli, we had somebody ask that earlier. I'm not sure if it was you. Let me do some homework on that and get back to you. My guess is Bill James, the guy who does Series 9, I'll send him an email. I think he's just meaning there's qualifications to do it. It's contingent because you need permission, but I'll check it out. The test issue on a any cross, is its dual agency. You're representing the buyer and the seller. It needs to be disclosed, but I'll do some homework and get back to you on that. Yeah, you do, Nancy. You need to be able to do reverse splits and forward splits. It's primarily, Nancy, forward splits. Brian, you want to do some board work on that? You don't have to. I hate to make Brian think.
No, I think it's the best way to illustrate it. I really do.
All right. So let me get Brian some space here.
Now, I can tell you the easy way to do it, especially for the SIE, for both reverse and regular splits. With a reverse split, you get less shares and the price of the stock increases. As a matter of fact, that's why they do the reverse split. They need to increase the price of the stock so they don't get kicked off the exchange because the company's pretty lousy.
Let me interrupt just a little bit here, Brian, real quick. So Nancy, this is I told you I'm putting out Thursday the tips, tricks, and memory aids, and that is a good trick. So if you get bogged down on the math, remember what Brian just said. You have less shares at a higher price. When in a forward split, it would be the opposite. You'd have more shares at a lower price. So just remember that if you get bogged down in the math. But you are going to have to do a practical application of this. Sorry, Brian.
Not a problem. And because I know a lot of people have anxiety over the math. They have trouble remembering how to do the math. And I know 9 times out of 10 on the actual real test, if you simply remember these facts, you don't actually have to even touch a calculator because there's typically only one answer choice that satisfies these conditions. So absolutely, the tests really aren't about math; it's about knowing the concept.
Yeah, and Nancy, it's mainly, I agree with Brian. Almost the entire SIE, most of it is recognition. It's embarrassing. GE was a blue chip until it wasn't, and GE did a 10-for-1 reverse. That's so embarrassing. Right. And that took their stock from the embarrassing price of 2 to 20. Right. So you had 100 shares at 10 at 2. Now you have 50 shares at 20. The other thing I would add, Brian, is to Nancy is make sure you understand there's been no effective change in proportion ownership. You have less shares, but so does everybody else. In a forward split, it would be the same deal.
No change in ownership.
But definitely should be prepared to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Boom. Testing. What's the deal with testimonials? It's prohibited or not? We answered that. I think it's a new change. It's not permitted. It's no longer prohibited. You can use testimonials as an investment advisor. So again, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll post on the community page of the channel, the YouTube channel, the thing I posted on Reddit. So if you're not a Reddit person, I'll post the new version of the rule. But again, it's mainly disclosure about testimonials than it is about, it's going to be some brand new kind of a thing. So, but I'll post that on the YouTube channel. Sure. Do you want to use your whiteboard again, Brian, or you want me just to do it orally? I'm serious, by the way. I don't want to listen, I work Brian too hard. He might not join us next Tuesday.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. I got
to be careful overusing, taxing Brian a little too much, right?
No, office or customer is a resident. That's when they have to register. If they have either a physical location or a customer or more.
I think BDs, Roger, are easier personally. I think the BDs are less in the weeds.
Now, the one thing that worries me about the question is about the IA registration.
Yes.
you always, for 63, 65, 66, you always have to determine whether you're talking about a federal or a state IA.
Right.
That's the big first initial step you have to take.
The way I say that, Roger, is who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? It's one or the other, right? It's either the SEC or the state. I have a YouTube video, very popular. It's called Who's Your Daddy? And it's exactly a video about this thing that Brian has on the whiteboard right now.
And federal IAs don't even register with administrators. They only register with the SEC.
That's right.
Now, that's
Never
the
both.
first step.
Never both. It keeps coming up. I can't tell you, Roger, how many people get, but it's never both. So today we had somebody asking about withdrawing a registration of an investment advisor, and he was asking about SEC and state. I said, it won't be both. It's either the SEC and no states, or states and not the SEC. So that line that Brian drew is really important for answering questions.
Certainly is. And the same applies to the IAR, because you got to designate federal or state IAR as well.
Yeah. Excellent. I think, Brian is as good as anybody on putting this legalese into plain English. Okay, we got an update on our Canadian question. The answer set for the Canadian question was multiple between only the American BD. Well, again, we need some context. If the American BD, there's no circumstance in which an American BD is not going to be registered in a state in which they have an office. So it doesn't matter if I have Canadian customers, if I'm American BD, all right? So the American BD has to be registered. The Canadian BD does not, as long as they're just calling on Canadians, right? I don't think they get in the 30 days or the few months. What's your thoughts on that, Brian?
30 days for what?
The snowbird. I don't think the snowbird is.
Oh, no. They never get into that. No.
Workload where I can't study at work. Oh my God. I do have some.
I hear this too often.
I think in the morning, if you can, switch your load, because people work are energy vampires. So what I would do is would find my study block in the morning. So try and find 45 minutes to an hour and a half that you can carve out of your morning. I had a single mom. That was the only thing before she even set the kids to work and then went to her full-time job. As much as you want to study in the evening, it's going to be difficult because you've already, used a lot of brain power. So, and then I would really max out my weekends. So the weekends would be my, I maybe do 3 or 4 study blocks on weekends. So yeah, I wouldn't try and do it when you get home. You should give yourself permission to say, it's just tough. So you're not going to pick it up. If you're going to do stuff in the evening, do low key, like watch Brian's videos or my videos or stuff like that. But reading and doing questions, try and do that in the morning. Do you have any other advice, Brian?
That's exactly the same thing I tell people. Try to carve out an hour in the morning. Get there, 45 minutes earlier or something.
Yeah. I just think, listen, I don't want people to take this wrong way. If you're studying in the evening and my brother's an evening person, he stays up to 1. My circadian rhythm is not evening. That's not when I'm at my best mentally. So if you are, then maybe, Samuel, I would just reverse it, right? Try and put your study block where your circadian rhythm is at best. I do think even if you're an evening person like my brother is, even a full day of work, I think would be taxing on the brain housing group. So, that would be my advice. Credit ratio. Are you sure they're not asking the spread? The spread is 100 bips or 100 basis points or 1%. We do test on the credit spread, not the credit ratio. And the credit spread is the difference between what high quality debt pays and lower credit quality debt pays. I would think, Rosario, that would be what I think. But again, you have my email address. Cut and paste the question to me. I don't know if you saw this on the actual question, but in the actual exam, credit spreads are testable. Spread always means difference, by the way. So if you're a 7 test taker, spread is the difference in the premiums. Brian, I tease him, he likes to bet on things. I go, what's the spread? That's the difference in the scores, right? So it's always the difference. So a ratio is always division. So maybe this can be helpful, Rosario, in terms of math. Whenever you hear ratio, it means division. And I can't imagine we're dividing something in the information you gave me. But any ratio, I always joke, if you cannot decide what to do math-wise on an exam, do division. I would be doing you a favor to cover every calculator key except the divide key. And if you can't decide what to divide, take the first number and divide it by the second number. Now, current ratio is testable. Quick and acid test ratio is testable. Debt to total capital is testable, but I'm not sure. So put it back in the chat if you want to, try and take another shot at it. By the way, be aggressive in trying to let me and Brian understand what your question is, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes then the lights go on and that's what they were talking about. So, but I would think that would be more of a credit spread. Then the other thing to remember is spread always means difference. And that's math, right? Spread is math difference, subtracting or netting, netting. Yeah, Nick, I would tell you shouldn't be here. Joking. You should be sleeping.
I was going to say, that's right.
So I can't tell you how important a good night's rest is. We were just talking about mornings. My reading skills diminish over the course of the day. And when I'm tired, I just can't read. And reading is fundamental to your success tomorrow. So, Nick, it may be too late to tell you this, but as much as you can, try and get a good night's sleep. Your study effort's done, right? So I do have the Series 7 in 60 minutes that people seem to like. It's just a little, maybe you can play it in terms of mood music, like what do they have? Like Bambling Brooks, you can listen to me for 60 minutes, but you should be done and you should be confident in your study effort. And now it's just time. I always joke, I call the 747 principle. It takes a 747, 120% of rated power to get off the ground. So you back and then once you get up there, you're just cruising. That's 70% of rated power. And now what I tell you is you just got to stick the landing. So, you can bring down this plane for the landing. So you should be done. So get some sleep. I'm not sure, Derek, I apologize. I'm not sure. Application to my father. Maybe I missed it in the chat. I'm not sure what that was. Let me go back real quick. Derek, in the chat, I'm trying to monitor chat. If I miss you, I apologize. Just put it back in the chat and I'll try and answer that. I think, Derek, I recall you asked me about, is the chat visible? And the answer is yes. Oh, the applications to your father in terms of getting the SIE? Yeah, it doesn't require sponsorship. Yeah, so anybody can take it. I've had people say, should I take it as an investor? I don't know. Should investors know what brokers know? I would say yes, but I wouldn't. If I were an investor, I wouldn't be taking the SIE just to do it.
Test world versus real world.
Yeah, I love Brian's right. Why would you choose to enter into the SIE fantasy land if you have a choice not to?
You're going into a cave to slay a dragon. It has nothing to do with investing.
I always joke, sometimes I tell people, at least when you pass your Series 7, you get to leave the Series 7 fantasy land, and Brian and I are stuck here permanently. No wonder we're done.
For almost 30 years.
Yeah, we got a lot of experience. So, I don't know when experience became a bad thing, Brian. So, yeah, okay, go get it done. Halloween. That'd be interesting. I wonder if anybody of the Prometric sites will be in costume. You think it's Brian? Oh, I'm not sure. Again, some of the chats are. Yeah, sometimes you get two best answers. Yeah, Brian is a great explainer. The great explainer will come up. Maybe that'll be his new nickname instead of the TestGeek. The great explainer. There was the great orator, the great explainer. I think he does a pretty good job, an excellent job at. The challenge in all the NASA exams, I think, is language. It's not in English to begin with. It's in legalese. And so, one of the challenges on NASA exams, and I'm not being facetious, is to figure out what you're being asked. That can be a challenge because it's, the language is difficult. I had a young lady who speaks Mandarin. I can't even imagine trying to translate from Mandarin to English and back because it's not English to begin with. But then the other thing you got to figure out is what are the answers being offered to you? And that too can be a challenge. Now, if you can get to the point with Brian's help or, intermediary or just working on your own through your paid statements, at the point you can figure out what you're being asked and the answer is being offered to you, it becomes a pretty easy exam. But, you may never get there. You may never get to that place of comfort. Almost everybody taking an NASA exam is uncomfortable. So I guess you got to, hopefully you can get more comfortable. But you should, the idea is you're going to be uncomfortable when you go down there. Ooh. I think we've been asked and answered this like 3 times. Maybe I'm actually messed up.
topic of the night, I guess. Testimonials on the 66.
I love it. I love it, Cameron. Cameron, I just recently, the TD Ameritrade, I'm not sure which side of the house you come from, but with the merger, I've been involved with Schwab for decades. So Schwab was in San Francisco. I spent most of my career, and I used to teach classes directly across the street from the headquarters. And when we had power go down, Schwab would had generators, and they would allow us to come over and continue the class. But as a result of the merger, I think most of the training now is being done by training consultants instead of Kaplan. But I just got a text from a guy today who's in a training consultants class, and he tells me that most of the class is using my YouTube channel instead of paying attention to the training consultant class. So, all right, Pooja, you get extra help for that. So, if you can, Pooja, make sure you try and read the book cover to cover before class. I know I'm asking a lot, but the more work you can do to prep, the better. So, reading primarily, and then after class, doing questions, and then remember. You can always send me the Kaplan QIDs. Those are the questions. I'm more than happy to help you even after our class on those. So looking forward to seeing you next week. The discount code is Guru20, Leslie. Guru20. So you get that 20% discount with that discount code. If it doesn't work, just call me, because then I call Brian. I say, Brian, how come the Guru20 code isn't working? Usually it's because he sets it 6 months out or something. So
that's it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want to be doing last minute. I mean, analytical methods includes the balance sheet we just discussed. I would tell you at this point, I forgot when you're testing, Laura, but Brian, I'll ask Brian if he concurs with this. I think people are more concerned about analytical methods than they should be. I would think that when it comes to discounted cash flow, the dividend discount model, dividend growth model, future value, present value, capital asset pricing model, all that stuff, I think, Laura, there's not enough of it that if you have studied well, that you could guess be a sign of the universe and still pass. So I'm not sure how many hours you want to get into the weeds on that kind of stuff. What do you think, Brian, about analytical methods?
For the 66, there can be a few discounted cash flow questions.
Yeah. Mostly the use, right?
I'm sorry?
Mostly where you can use discounted cash flow in bonds to get the present value. I don't think
there's two, or actually three, one for debt and two for equity.
That's
basically definitional.
Yeah.
I probably would know how the formulas look for the equity. You won't have to calculate anything per se, but knowing those formulas. So I would say there's probably three discounted cash flow questions.
So Laura, I don't know. I forgot when you told us you're testing, but if you go to my YouTube channel in the playlist, you'll find a little video on analytical methods. I want to say it's 20, 30 minutes. So you can check that out. I also have a 50 questions, way more, because people always are worried about this. And we just said you're getting 3 or 4. I did 50 of them. So there's 50 practice questions on analytical methods. So you can check that out depending on when you're testing. If you're testing like tomorrow, I wouldn't do it because you don't want to go backwards. So, but if you have time, check out the playlist, 66 playlist, and you'll see analytical methods. And then you'll also see in the practice questions, there's the TestGeek final, Brian's TestGeek final. I have a final based on debrief. And there should be, I don't know when you're testing, there's another 66 Kaplan final I'm going to put up here pretty quickly. Yeah, Brian?
Dean, I've got a question, if I may ask.
Sure.
Would analytical methods, in your mind, also include alphas, betas, standard deviation?
I call it all that stuff. It's not really in the test specification, Laura. They're separate categories. But when people I say it this way, Brian, Laura, usually when people ask me analytical methods, I think they mean the quantitative part of their test, the quantitative analysis part. But as I tell you, the analytical method section itself includes some very basic balance sheet calculations. So, if you can get those balance sheet stuff, that might pay the price for some misses elsewhere. Yeah, it's Guru 20. Thanks. It's Guru 20. For Kaplan, it's Guru 10. Yeah, again, way more than the actual exam. Way more than the actual exam. So, but Kaplan does a good job. You're definitely getting dollar cost averaging. You definitely should be able to do a simple average. And you should definitely know the dollar cost averaging, what makes it work, fixed dollars invested regularly. What's the end result? You have a lower average cost of the underlying shares, and you can't guarantee a profit. There you go. That's total return is fair game. Remember division. So total return would be the price appreciation, depreciation, plus or minus the profit or loss, or price appreciation, depreciation divided by what you invested. Quick ratio is the current assets minus the inventory, quick assets, divided by current liabilities. That's fair game, pretty standard stuff. What's your website, Mavi? Brian, your website is TestGeekExamPrepLLC.com?
No LLC. TestGeekExamPrep.com.
Why don't you put that on the board too? I'll give you the real estate to put that. There you go. So
it's a long one. TestGeekExamPrep.com.
there you go. So
Downloadable PDFs. That's the one that's got the quick notes and practice final. And then, of course, the video course that contains all of it, the videos plus the PDFs. And again, Guru 20 for 20% off.
Mavi, listen, please, too. You can also, if you watch me do Brian's finals, the PDFs, if you just want the PDF of a practice final that you see me do on the YouTube channel, Brian will sell that to you for $20 with the discounts. Like what's 20%, $16. But I have people who will buy that, and then they'll call me and say, it's just a PDF of the practice exam. I said, well, I think we were pretty clear that that's what it is. I still think that's a good value too, just to get what I tell people to do if they just get the PDF of the final for $16 is to use it as a poor man's flashcard and take their El Marco and just, El Marco out wrong answers. And then the night before or morning of or both, just read Brian's questions and his right answers and the rationales. Past perfect. Listen, I try not to be, I try and be agnostic about study materials, but I got to tell you, past perfect really takes people into the weeds. So, I think Kaplan, for the most part, STC, for the most part, stands on the broad avenues and highways of the testable content. Doesn't mean you don't need a bridge, either a free bridge, free supplement like Dean, or a paid supplement or bridge like Brian. I still recommend that. But boy, when it's past perfect to you, I really recommend it. And the same thing for Exam FX and training consultants. They're on the opposite end in the past perfect. I think they're a little thin. So, I think, STC, Kaplan, Knopman's excellent. So those three, I think, are on the broad avenue and highways. But if you have both, that's great. And then you can use it to confirm, right? So if all the test prep vendors and Brian and Dean say you should be prepared for it, that's confirmation. It's there. If only one of your vendors has a question on it, then yeah. Okay. Woo! 75 on TestGeek. Danica, I think that means you're in good shape. I think you're going to get that P, as Brian says. I expect a victory. So come back Tuesday, share your victory with us. Make sure, I don't want to send any negative vibes out there, but the deal on the third time. So let's slay this dragon for sure. Go into that cave, slay that dragon, and walk back out. I think the main difference between 65-volt and 66 is two things: content and what you can do with it. So a 66 doesn't work unless you have a 7. 65 would work in and of itself at a fee-based investment advisory firm. And then the second version is the 65 has economic questions. It has more content. It has 30 more questions than the 66. It depends what kind of financial advisor. If all you want to be is an investment advisor rep, and a fee-based investment advisor, all you need is a 65. But if you want to be an agent of a broker dealer and an investment advisor representative, then you need 663.65 or 763.65 or 766. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of training consults either, but like I say, I was telling Brian the other day, I've been, building my own identity here. I was a, senior person for very many years at Kaplan, the predecessor company, but I'm kind of, the YouTube channel is kind of my way of establishing an independent relationship with test takers like yourself not dependent on Kaplan, training consultants, Pass Perfect, or for that matter, your sponsoring broker dealer, whether it be Schwab or Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley. So this is kind of the Independence Day right here on the YouTube channel. So both Brian and I are independent resources, regardless of your firm or your test prep vendor. Yeah, like I say, I think that would be a credit spread question, not a credit ratio. I've never heard of a credit ratio question on any exam. So I think it's hard to I understand when you do your questions and you get done and you come out of the cave and the dragon smoked you, gotcha, kind of do debrief, but give it some thought. Maybe it'll come to you. So every once in a while, lights go on, you go, oh, I remember what it was. Yeah, again, mainly, Laura, inputs and outputs. Inputs, and outputs. I had a guy who, hubris, it's not hubris, is full of himself, but he said, Dean, I don't even memorize any formulas. I'm a serious math geek. Geeks to me are a term of endearment, including our TestGeek. He said, Dean, you give me any two numbers, I can solve for thirds. So I don't need to spend time on that. I said, great. By the way, truthful. I mean, he is who he claims to be. And then he called me, he passed Laura, and he said, it was more challenging because they didn't ask me to do the math. And they asked me to recognize the formulas. And as I told you, I didn't memorize any formulas because I don't need formulas. I can figure out the formula on the fly. And so then he said I had to do the math to figure out the formula. So, proof again, it's mainly recognition. Yeah, I told you. Brian, listen, Brian is not trying to do any, mum's the word. Brian is trying to be a bridge to the actual exam. So everything Brian has in his content is directly related to getting you the P. Same for myself. I'm a little more long-winded than Brian. So I would tell you that sometimes you're watching my video, maybe I go off on a rant or something, but same thing. I attempt not to be giving you stuff that isn't necessary. Now, I would agree that sometimes, what I think is necessary and what you think is necessary might be different things, right? So I do believe you should understand things, for example. So, sometimes I'll spend more time on it because I think if you do understand something, then you don't need to memorize it. Woohoo! Thank you, Ryan. Thanks. You passed your 7 into May. It's already working on your 65, 66. We try. Woohoo! Thank you so much. On to the 7, Jess. What the work you did on your SIE will pay dividends on the 7. There's a lot of overlap, so it should not look too foreign to you as you dig into the 7. You're going to have a lot more option questions with a lot more depth. But like I say, there's no wasted effort on your SIE. I wish I could tell people all the work you do on your SIE is going to pay huge dividends in a 6 top off or 7 top off. So why not buckle down on that SIE and not really try just to barely get by? Because, people barely pass the SIE, put themselves at risk on the 7. So if you're starting on that testing journey, make sure that first leg, you say, man, I want to come out 1-0, going for 2-0, right? You are welcome. You're welcome. We're coming up to a close. Our live stream is an hour, and it looks like we're coming up on the hour. Brian's videos. I think we put that up there, Roger, didn't we? There we go. We still got it up here. TestGeek exam prep.
The videos, you have to click on a black button that says View Video Courses. Black button on the website, View Video Courses. And then, Roger, if you want a free look on Brian's, he's got some free look stuff on YouTube too. So you can check him out on YouTube. Yeah, you see him here for an hour, so I don't know how much more due diligence you need to do, but it's available for you on that. And then remember, the courses, the video courses do come with the PDFs that we've been discussing. So that would be all in on Brian. It's $100, Guru 20 discount. You can go all in on Brian's content, his video courses for $80. So I asked 24. Yeah, I had somebody who told me they bought your 24 videos. And I said, "You use the discount code?" And they said, "No." I said, "No, you gave Brian full pop. You gave him some extra margin." Extra pizza today. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped your question, Roger. Sorry about that. Let's see. Where did it go? I think you had a question.
Legalese in federal state law. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it'll
we
be
got
on
that
there.
one.
Did you have anything in the chat? Is it?
It's really good on federal and state law.
Yeah. But, like I said, nobody does it better than Brian in terms of putting this in plain English. I try, but I have too much investment experience. Sometimes it clouds my mind. I can't help but tell you some kind of a story. All right, everybody. Anybody else before we call it a night? It's a ball night for me. I'm a huge NBA fan, so I got a couple games queuing up and got a scotch waiting and a cigar, so I'm set. Let's see. One more. Here we go, Brian. Well, you need to find another sponsor, unfortunately. So we had somebody who found somebody. Have a good answer for when you find a sponsor about your first two. I don't know what your scores were, but be prepared. Just script up your answer. And, there's going to be somebody out there who'd be willing to take a chance on you at their time, as long as you have a good answer for the first two attempts, right? So that's what I would suggest. What do you think, Brian? Anything you would add to that?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you passed your SIE. So,
that gets your foot in the door.
Yeah, I do think I wouldn't give up on getting into the industry based on that. So, do some work. I don't know who your sponsoring firm is, but there are opportunities still out there. So, anything else? All right, everybody. As I say, inch by inch, your exams are a cinch. And as Brian says,
stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
See you next Tuesday, everybody. Share with your friends, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.